right, everybody, come on in. All right, everybody, sorry for keeping you waiting. Come on in. Welcome back to another episode of the Wives Club. For anybody new here, hi, I am Maggie, the substitute teacher. I make food and femininity content. You may know me for my cooking channel. I always like to say one thing you may not know about me is in 2021, I booked a session with the late, great Kevin Samuels. I was one of the ones who wanted to talk to him one-on-one, and it wasn't for me. I always like to say I am happily average, so I didn't need the rating, but as an older woman, I did want to give back. I'll be 50 in a couple of weeks, and it always used to convict me whenever he would talk to women and he would say, where are the older women to teach the young? I don't have daughters. Some of you all know I'm a boy mom, was married for 10 years, and learned the hard way that someone has to lead in the relationship. And ladies, that gusto that we have when we're young, we definitely start to slow down. And so I'm here for those women who want to prioritize marriage and family in their prime. And we started in his Patreon. I asked for his blessing. He actually gave us the name, the Wives Club. And once a week we would get together and we would react to his content with our own lived experience. So that's what I do here. So like I said, was married for 10 years, married my college boyfriend, corporate America and modern woman mindset had me thinking all those accomplishments really mattered. So unfortunately, that marriage ended in divorce. 2 boys from the marriage, now 16 and 18. And then life brought me back to a young love. And I have now been in that relationship coming up on 15 years now. And I learned that a certain caliber of man requires a certain caliber of woman. So that's my experience and what I like to speak from here. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to react to Kevin's episode. I know he is no longer with us. I miss him every day, but his message still lives on. And what I like to do whenever his channel posts a new montage of content, I like to keep going with what we did in the Patreon and in the mix. So I have my notes here. If you see me looking down, this episode was, do you have what it takes to survive the winter? Winter is here. Kevin used to say winter is coming. It is here. If you are in the US, the holidays are upon us, and it's definitely getting colder. I'm in Atlanta. Maybe it's colder where you all are. So I have some clips from that episode, and I just like to speak to it and offer whatever I can as an older woman. So we're going to get right into it. And if you all want to share, hello, Cookies. Thank you so much for being here. Hello to Instagram. I see you all. Menal is asking, can you have 3 wives? Maybe, wherever you are, if you and your women agree to it. Who am I? We live in the U.S., and I think legally you can only marry one woman, but people do whatever they want to do, right? We have Rodney here saying, facts, Miss Maggie says a certain caliber of man requires a certain caliber of woman. Absolutely. Hey, C. Irving, thank you so much for being here, and hello to everyone on TikTok. Okay. So, thank you so much for the love. I appreciate it. All right, everybody. So the first clip that I have here, Kevin started this episode by saying, no one can tell us the truth. And I know he was talking to women in the community, but I would say, I hate to admit it, but I have to be honest. Sometimes, probably more often than not, we don't listen to wise counsel. I've even had that experience. And my man, you'll hear me call him Mr. President. Mr. President says that maybe it's just human nature, but for the most part, we got to hit rock bottom. You know, it cost me a marriage. Some women, it costs them all kind of trouble. But all I'll say is this, you know, if it's helpful, let it help you. I think we can definitely learn from our own experiences, but even better to learn from others if you can relate. All right. So don't be that hard-headed woman. You know, you don't have to say that any piece of advice change your life, but just let it change your life if it's useful. All right. Hello, Ami. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So, Kevin was asking in this episode for the women who wanted to level up to a high value man. Now, you all know Kevin was a professional image consultant and he talked a lot about image and the type of women that had the opportunity to get a high value man. And I'm going to say, ladies, this is like looking for a needle in the needle stack. You know, fortunately for me, lightning did strike twice. However, I would say this: I wouldn't go looking for a high value man. That's not how it works. These type of men, they know what they want. They move in silence. The key is, if you have an opportunity with them and they present you with an offer, take it seriously. Um, Men are looking for the feminine asset to their brand. So instead of being focused on, okay, how can I get that cherry on the top? Ask yourself, do I even belong in this ice cream sundae? And I'm going to say this. You all know I stream with Lucy a lot. And she has this statistic. I always butcher it, but I think it was something about in 2030, 45% of women between the ages of, what is it, like 35 and 60 are going to be single and childless. And ladies, that's 4 years away from now. So, God willing, all of us are still going to be around 4 years from now, unless you're at death's door, unfortunately. So, that means you look to the left and you look to the right. One of those women is going to be single forever. I'm not talking about a snapshot in time, but for whatever reason, they have made decisions that they will be single and without a life mate for the rest of their life. So I would say, let's stop focusing on high value men. We'll talk about it for sure if you are fortunate, or I don't know if that's the word, because they require a lot. But if you find yourself in that type of relationship, that's wonderful if that's what you want. But ladies, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I think any good man can change your life, whether or not he's six figures. A man brings so much wisdom and consistency and reliability and so many other qualities to the table if you choose wisely. So again, yes, we can talk about some things that you can do. I'll talk about what I did to level up for the caliber of man that I have if you have questions, but don't go looking for that, because Kevin, he compared it to a video game, and I don't play video games, but something about going from level 0 to like advanced level, and you end up striking out over and over again. All right. Now, I know this was about a couple weeks ago, but I'm going to hope to do it justice. All right. We got Sent here. She says, I agree. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Rodney says, most meaningful change happens incrementally, not drastically. Incremental change is prone to long lasting. And yeah, that is so true. I was talking to Mr. President earlier. Hello, Senator. Thank you for being here. And I was talking to my man earlier, and it was just one of those conversations where I was thinking, you know what? Ladies, take this for what it is, and then we'll get back into Kevin's content. When you're my age, it is so wonderful to be able to talk to your man about when we were young. And when you give your husband the benefit of your youth, they expect us to grow old. We're all going to grow old together. But when you haven't been intentional about who you spend your time with, what ends up happening is when you get to my age, then you're talking to a new man about how you used to be, and he wasn't there. And what Mr. President added on to that is the quiet part out loud is you're talking about your glory days from how you used to be with other men. But we're just polite and we don't speak that. But men aren't foolish. They're not going to believe that we were just sitting around in the library doing nothing. So, I'm all for it. I was married at 25 to my boyfriend that I had at 18. I don't think you need to turn a hot girl summer into a decade or more. You don't need one at all. All right. So just my 2 cents. Okay. So, Kevin said in this episode, in his monologue, he said that men need money to have a woman. And here's the thing, ladies, men know that. And of course, we're stating the obvious here, but the point is that men know that they can't just come out and say, I woke up like this, I'm me, we go together now. That would be foolish. We women should discern and we should vet and we should only hitch our wagon to somebody who can do something for us. So I see that in the boys, when they start getting their little jobs, even if it's an ice cream date or whatever, they know to have a girlfriend, they're going to have to be able to bring something to the table. So men know that they have to go get it, and bring it back and say, look at this, animal that I hunted, do you approve? The missing piece, ladies, is that we have to ask ourselves, okay, what do I need to have a man? And I'm going to tell you, full stop, ladies, even if you're young and beautiful, which is great, that'll get you in the door, but it's not going to keep you in the house. What do you need to be able to have a man? The kind of man that you want, because believe me, they're going to require something. And a certain caliber of man is going to require a lot consistently. And it shouldn't scare you if you're preparing yourselves. But a lot of times women find themselves in the deer in the headlights because they haven't been preparing. So you all have heard me say it, your femininity, your communication, your consistency, taking care of yourself, being fit. I struggle with that, all of those things. But the answer is not nothing. So don't just be blinking fast and slow when someone says, okay, this is what I have to offer. What are you going to do for me? You need to have an answer. Hello, Raymond. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So good to see everyone. Okay, so let us continue on. Now, Kevin talked a lot in this episode about educated women. This is the one that, I'm guilty of. And he had some screenshots and he was talking about these big educations and big degrees that we have. I got two of them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is, Mr. President told me the world that we live in, especially the country that we live in here in the US, is set up for families. And with this fracturing, Raymond, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I appreciate it so much. It's so generous of you. Hello, Noise Girl. Okay, so the world that we live in, ladies, is built for the family unit. Everything is set up for the family. And the way things have gotten so fractured now, where it's like everybody just wants to be individuals, and that's why this whole blurring of lines, or you're just a person. You all know I'm always going to be howling at the moon. We are not equal. We are equally valued, but we are very different and we're better together, just like Kevin used to say. So when we go get these big educations, my man calls them breadwinner jobs. So if this offends you, just, go listen to something else. But traditionally, if that's what you want, somebody has to lead. And believe me, ladies, when you get my age and probably even sooner, you're going to want somebody to take that stress off of you. So in that case, the way things have been set up, if you even look at jobs, we were talking about open enrollment now because I need to take Marcus off my insurance, if you all know. He is a Marine now, so he is fully covered. But the way that these jobs were to provide for the family and to have insurance for the family, and the way that we have these single family homes, everything was for the family. So if you get offended by, man and woman, I can't help you. But to make it easier, my man calls it breadwinner and chief of staff. Now, if you're one of these women that thinks I want a 50-50 partner, none of this applies, because go find a man that's willing to defer to you. I don't know one. But when we go get these big degrees and we go get these breadwinner jobs, Kevin said in this episode, we want the education, but we don't want to have to pay the bills. We don't want to have to care for the family. No woman that I know says, I'm going to go get this big job so that I can take care of the mortgage and the bills and the insurance and put everything on my back for the next 45 years. That's not how we operate, ladies. Be honest with yourself. But men do. Men know if they want an intact family, if they want to keep it together, they're going to have to be able to cover all of us. We're going to have to be in their covering. So the problem is when we go get these big jobs, but we want to keep all that money for ourselves, it puts things out of order, and then we inflate our impression of ourselves because we have this big paycheck, but we're not willing to use it in the way that a man would for the family. So hopefully that's helpful. All right. The next thing that Kevin said in this episode is that the hypergamy, it's still there, ladies. It's part of our biology. Naturally, we want a man that we admire and respect and we can look up to protect us and provide for us. That's just in our biology. That's how we are wired. We want to marry up. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, the problem is with this hypergamy, because we want to have the cream of the crop, when we have already gone and gotten this big breadwinner job, the pool of men that are hypergamous from that point is even smaller. So now you're looking for another needle in another needle stack, and it just gets harder. That's why you see a lot of corporate women, a lot of big boss women, a lot of women that I used to work with are single and miserable. All right. So I just tell, especially the young women, there's nothing wrong with school. I have a graduate degree, undergraduate degree, but just make sure you're choosing the type of career, if you are going to work, that you're going to be able to work and still take care of the family that you want, assuming that you want a family. Because what I see, those of us with these big 6-figure jobs, like my man says, we'll give you a good 10 years, maybe 15 years. Ask any accomplished woman. Once she hits about 35, she's really starting to look around like, is this what I got to do for the next 30 years? Contrast that to men. Men in my age group and older, they're just now getting their second win and they're investing and they're doing overtime and doing all this stuff. And we are not in mass. All right. Rodney says being a breadwinner normally requires a masculine mindset. That's a really good point. Yeah, ladies, in order to be able to carry the family and the burden, the weight, the gravity of knowing that the buck stops here and it's on me, that's a huge burden. And I don't think we're built for it, not for the long haul. Like Kevin said, that pressure should be on their shoulders, not our hips. Okay? So, Kevin often compared us to women in other cultures. You all know I'm an immigrant. I grew up in a traditional family, and I'm very grateful for that nuclear family. My mom still cares for my dad to this day, and they've been together 100 years. So the difference is, Kevin said in this episode, American women, modern women, we have an expectation and an entitlement to what that man is going to do for us without being without compensating with what we're going to do. So we can't just take, we can't just receive. So ladies, in your quiet time, ask yourself, okay, what I'm asking for, am I bringing not equally, not the same thing, but equal in value? And is it going to be useful to him? That's where we miss out with foreign women, with women in other cultures. They know, okay, you're going to take care of all of this. All right, let me take this off of your plate and that off of your plate. Don't you worry about it. I'm up with the sun. I'm making sure you don't have to worry about any of this because you're going to go get it. So you can ask yourself, ladies, do you really think that you're going to be a sustainable pampered princess, or are you willing to work for it and earn it? That's what I like to do. We got Erin Laura here. She says, good afternoon, Maggie and class. Thank you, sweetheart. So good to see you. One of my day ones. Okay, so check the expectation and entitlement. Expecting a man to offer something is not a bad thing. Feeling entitled to it is. All right, especially if you don't want to do anything in return. So Kevin was asking the women, are you ready for what you want? So ladies, ask yourself, first of all, what is it that you want? That answer should be able to roll off of your tongue. Kevin would ask women and they would really stutter, well, I want, no, you need to be big and bold, because that man's going to ask you. And if you don't look like you know what you want, he's going to move on to somebody that does. All right. So I want to make sure that you all are prepared. So what is it that you want? If it's marriage, say so. If it's family, say so. If it's stay at home, say so. If it's working full time, say so. If it's working part time, say so. We have to be able to communicate in our relationships. Mr. President sat me down on the second date and said, this is what I will do for you. This is the timeline. This is what I expect from you. Do you accept? And you think, oh my gosh, that's so harsh. That's so unromantic. But the caliber of men that we want don't waste time and they don't waste their words. So you have a very slim window where you can answer the question that could possibly change your life if that's what you want. All right. So What is it that you want, ladies, and are you ready for it? And readiness in a way that's going to be useful to the man that can give you what you want, if you want a relationship. All right, so we talked about the video games. Kevin was saying that a lot of modern women are going from zero to advanced level, meaning we don't even have the foundation. And this is something that, ladies, again, I implore you. For me, and I've said this before, the purpose of dating is to determine if this is a suitable match for marriage or long term. It's not to look cute. It's not to take pictures. It's not to go to the restaurant that you can't afford and have somebody pay your bills that you really don't like. All of that is wasting your time. I hear from so many women that had that gravy train going when they were young, but it runs out and then they get 35, 45, and now they're panicking because they haven't built the relationship skills. Keeping a relationship long term is a skill set, which means you can work on it like a muscle. All right. So I say again, only date the caliber of men that you see are husband material if you eventually want marriage, because it will get you in the rhythm of working with a man, listening, following the lead, being told no sometimes, being able to get what you want sometimes. If you're just running around and nobody can tell you anything, you think it's always going to be that way. And then when it's not, you are unprepared. And that's what Kevin said. We're not ready. So look back at your dating history, ladies, and categorize the men that you've dated. I had a husband and I have a long term. But look at the men that you've dated and ask yourself, you know what? Even if it doesn't work out, is this somebody that I could have seen a future with? And if you're dating somebody right now and you know it's just a waste of time and not going anywhere, you need to exit quickly because you're wasting time that you don't have to waste. All right. The next thing Kevin said in this episode is that the process for men to go from regular to high value is a process that they are willing to take. Hello, Rude Dog on Instagram. Yes, I am on YouTube. You all can find me, Maggie the Substitute Teacher or the Wives Club. Thank you for the compliment. So for a man to become high value, he has to go through the fire and go through the process. I am seeing that now as a boy mom, and it's a blessing to be able to see all the fits and the starts and the mistakes that they made. And you can see the future, but men have to take it step by step. Oftentimes, ladies, we don't see the process part. We just see them at the finish line and then we just think, oh, it's so easy. It's not so easy. All right. So a high value man, and Kevin had his criteria, 6 figures for an extended period of time. He needs to be a leader. He needs to be sought out for mentorship in the community, be useful to the group, all of those things. Those were his criteria. But again, I will say, ladies, especially now, with 1 out of 2 women are going to be single and childless forever. I say any good man can change your life. All right. So high value or not, we are not meant to do this thing alone. All right. So men know if they want to be high value, if they want to be that vice president or whatever it is, they're going to have to go through the process. So they're expecting us to go through a process as well. And I'll tell you all a little bit about what I did. I feel like I repeat myself, but I know we always have new people. So after the divorce, and it really humbled me because I'm one of those that usually whatever I do works well. And I didn't keep the main thing. I kept going for the promotion and all of that. Anyway, I'm really grateful. My ex-husband and I co-parent really, really well. And if you can't keep your marriage together, then the next thing you have to do is be the best parent that you can. And that's what the children deserve. Okay, so life brings me back to someone that I grew up with. And I remember when we sat down on that second date, he was telling me he's got these goals. He had a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan. He said, I want to be one of the Black VPs in Atlanta. I'm on an executive coaching track. He had all this stuff going on. And I'm just sitting there at the Chick-fil-A like, I'm just happy to be here. But instead of just looking around, la la land, I listened and I said, ooh, okay, this man is going places. And if I want to be there when he's going where he's going, I got to nip this stuff in the bud. And without telling him, I enrolled myself in etiquette school and started taking femininity training. I just say all that to say, ladies, it is a skill that you can work on, but you want to make sure that you are ready when the man is ready. You can't allow him to get out in front and then he's like, all right, I'm ready. Which one of y'all is going to take my offer? And you're like, hold on, here I come. Let me get it together. It's too late. It's not going to work that way. All right. So, make sure with all the fun stuff that you do, make sure you're doing things that are actually helping your personal development in a way that is useful to the man that you want. Because I'm going to tell you, ladies, something else Mr. President said. I remember a coworker of mine, single, professional woman, and I was pleading her case to Mr. President, and I said, she's really a good woman. And he was like, to who? And I didn't have an answer. And it dawned on me, ladies, if we are a good woman, that means we are a good woman to a man. We are a good woman for a man. Now, the feminist can run and your hair is on fire and run to the hills. It doesn't change. But what he told me is everything that you've described says that she's a good person, but nothing that you said tells me she's a good woman. All right. So make sure, ladies, if you want to be a good woman, make sure you are working on those skills. All right. It's really important. Thank you all so much for being here. Erin Laura says, unfortunately, a lot of women say they want to take charge man like Mr. President, but when he takes charge, he's too bossy. You can't have it both ways. Man, that is so true. Ladies, if you like to fall on the he's controlling, he's a narcissist, he's all of those things, just stay single or find somebody to be the wind beneath your wings. Masculine men, high value men, they are not negotiating with you. They're going to tell you what it is. Like my man told me, I hope it's you. Somebody's going to take me up on this offer. I'm telling y'all, I had to get with the program, but I've never been happier. We got Senator here with another $10. Thank you. He says, this is so refreshing to hear coming from a woman. Keep dropping knowledge, Maggie. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm glad it's helpful. Rodney says, marriage-minded men have a clear vision about their goals and standards for the future. Absolutely. And ladies, here's the thing. If you're talking to a man, or if you're keeping company with a man who doesn't have a clear vision for his goals and standards, he's not ready. Doesn't make him a bad person, but he's not ready yet. Circling back to what I said, only date men that you see are husband material. That's why the age gap is there. It takes men longer. But what you don't want to do is be twirling around outside doing whatever, and then he's ready and you're not. So one of the courses or one of the tools that I have on my website is that relationship readiness. And a big part of that is, can he explain where this train is going? Does he have a plan for the woman in his life? Can he articulate that? And is that something that you want to get on board? It's not just I like you and you like me and we're going to look into each other's googly eyes forever. That doesn't get anywhere. All right. Not if you want something real. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Noyce says, where should women start? That is a broad question. Maybe you can be more specific, but I would say start with femininity. But if you have a more specific question, I will try and answer. Hopefully what I've shared is helpful. Only date husband material if you want marriage. Okay, so you all know Kevin and the image consultant. He said, what are your looks worth? And he said this was a question that he would ask women who wanted a certain caliber of man. Now, here's the thing. I always say I'm happily average, right? We have the face that we have, but we have to understand, we have to appreciate youth and beauty is a currency. So ladies, spend it wisely because it's not always going to be there. We're all going to age and we are all going to grow older. I think we can grow older gracefully, but when I'm around young people, I definitely see it. No matter what I think about myself, you all may know I'm a Spelman alum. And when I go back on campus and I see the college girls, I'm just like, oh my gosh, they look so like Mr. President would say, fresh out the wrapper. But we are not supposed to look like that forever. We are supposed to age. And I think it can be beautiful, again, when you both have those shared memories of when we were young. All right. So what are your looks worth? And if you don't have a lot of currency in that area, like me, then we need to overperform in other ways. I am not a knockout. Nobody's going to crane their head when I walk through the door, but I can be as agreeable. Thank you, Wayne, on Instagram. I can be agreeable. I can be cooperative. I can be consistent. I can anticipate his needs. I can respect him. I can make sure that he doesn't want for anything. Those are things that I can control. Okay. So stop worrying about all of this. Do the best you can with what you have and then get to work, ladies. That's the important part. Okay. So he talked about high value men, 10,000 a month, which is what, 120,000 a year. His criteria for high value. I'm not going to get caught up on the dollar amount, but again, ladies, especially women who think they want a high value man. Mr. President asked me, even if you had a man that made the same amount as you, isn't that still a benefit to you? If you took all of your bills, all of the bills that you pay by yourself, and cut them all in half, would that not be better than doing it alone for the rest of your life? Yes, there may be some men that can take all of that off of you, but that doesn't leave the other men that can work with you as useless, especially because, ladies, I'm going to tell you, the men that are high value now were average when they were coming up. But you have to be able to see, like I saw, okay, he's going places and I want to be there when he gets there. It wasn't always this way. If you wait for him to get to the finish line, it's going to be incredibly harder for you. All right. So don't look down your nose at a hardworking man. The condemned is here. He says, I'll tell you where many women need to start. When you speak of men, when men aren't around, what does that conversation sound like? Are women speaking highly of the man you desire or the opposite? Ooh, that's a great one. Yeah, ladies. Do you think that men are useful? Do you think that men are valuable? Do you think that men are honorable? Do you think that men are admirable? I think men are amazing. I think men are so brave and so protective and so kind. And just knowing how there's a dragon inside that they keep contained so that we can live a comfortable life. It is incredible. So, to all of the men watching, thank you. I appreciate that so much. Okay. So, we talked about, high value man or even having a man that is at your financial level, which it's not just about money, but we use that example for bill paying. Men bring so much else to the table. Like I said, their strength, their wisdom, their bravery, their decision making. I'm telling y'all, Mr. President is so decisive. I struggle. Do not give me too many options. I just get overstimulated and I shut down. But he can look at something and make a decision, and it's so comfortable to not have to worry about things. That's a wonderful benefit of a man. $0. All right. So Kevin said in this episode, there are forces that prefer for us to stay apart. Now, I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, but it's true. Ladies, the world that we live in, if you were in the Western world, think about it. Take me as an example. I always tell myself, when there's a divorce, now there's two of everything. So there's two homes, two sets of everything. Who benefits? When we live in a consumer culture, there are forces and powers that be that want us to be separated because it helps them. And here's the thing, Mr. President said it. You're going to be adding to somebody's bottom line. You're going to be sending somebody's kids to private school. You're going to have some man tell you what to do. Why not your own man? Why not the man that's sworn to protect and cover you? All right. So yes, whether you believe it's government or, corporate or whatever, I'm a proud American, immigrant born, but I'm a proud American and I love it here. But when the family is together, when you are a man and a woman, husband and wife, and that unbreakable bond, nothing is better than that. A pastor I used to listen to said, there's nothing better than a good marriage, and there's nothing worse than a bad marriage. Aaron Laura says a good place to start would be Kevin Samuels. Listen to what he says men and women want. Thank you so much. Yes, I love that. His catalog, even though he's no longer with us, his words still live on. Christina says that's why they deserve a nice hot dinner. Yes, ma'am. Music to my ears. You all know I love cooking for my man and all men. I don't cook for anybody. I love feeding people, and it's a wonderful way to show love. Rodney says marriage is a team event made for two committed participants. I love that. Hello, Christina. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so let's go back in. So please believe, ladies, this is not by accident. You having your baby Benz and high rise and taking all these girl trips and doing all this stuff alone. And I'm not saying to not live your life. I live a wonderful life, but it benefits somebody when they have access to you and you have no covering. You don't have to run anything by anybody. You don't have to, let me talk to my man and get back to you. When you're just out here, that's how a lot of women get themselves in trouble. All right. So there are people who want us to stay apart. So if you want to be together, if you want to be spoken for, if you want to be part of a relationship, you're going to have to be willing to go against the grain and be that salmon swimming upstream, because people are going to tell you you can do it all by yourself. You don't want to. Believe me. All right. So I think one of the first callers that called in was a young woman that was dating an older man. I think she was 25, and I think she said he was in his 40s. And she was kind of shy to say that. Look, y'all know me. My ex husband was 7 years older than me. Um, Especially if you want a man to be ready on day one, ladies, he's probably going to be older than you. There was a time when we paired up right out of high school or college to somebody our age, but Mr. President says they don't make women like that anymore, meaning we were willing to work with a man and build that dream together. Unfortunately, men know that they're going to have to present something before they can get the woman that they want. So, yes, most men that are going into that upper echelon, it's going to take them into their 40s. And if that's a problem for you, that's fine. Just know that you're going to have to build with a younger man, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like Mr. President said, a 40-year-old man is not looking for a 40-year-old woman. Full stop. And I know it's hard to hear, but that's just how he talks to me, y'all. All right. So, this young woman was calling in and she was asking how she can level up. She said she wanted to match his level, and he corrected her, and I'm glad he corrected her. Ladies, we are not trying to compete with our men. This is something that the Western world will have you thinking. You know, you get a promotion, I get a promotion. You buy a new car, I buy a new car. That goes nowhere. We complement each other, okay? We do not compete with each other. So where he's going out to get it and, slay the dragons and all those things that men do, we level up in our femininity. We level up in our agreeableness. He asked her several questions. Do you, like Condemn said in his comment here, how do you speak of your man? Do you make him look better? When people know that you belong to him, does that help his image? Are you looking for ways to make life a little bit easier for him? I like to be, Mr. President calls me chief of staff. I'm going to be the best executive assistant you've ever had. I know your schedule. I'm taking care of appointments. I'm doing dry cleaning, washing, whatever I need to do. That way he didn't have to worry about anything. But find out what the man that you wants in a woman and excel at that. All right. A lot of times we excel at what we want to do and then are looking left and right when we realize, oh, that doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things. All right. So yes, you can level up. And I told you all some of the things that I did. But we're not trying to match. We're trying to complement. Kevin said we need to stop shaming the age gap. We talked about that. Look, you like what you like. If you want to date somebody that's your own age, that's fine. Just men are the ones that decide here, ladies. And I know, some people get upset about this, but when we're younger, we have the leverage. We can demand or request what we want because we have youth on our side. That changes very quickly. When it comes to relationships, men are the ones that ask. So they are the ones that say, okay, I want to make you my own. Do you accept? It's not the other way around. I could never walk up to a man and say, okay, we go together now. Maybe some of you women do that, but the man that you want, traditional masculine, high value man, it's not happening. We got Irving here with the €5. Thank you. He says, I'm loving the KS reaction video, Maggie. I learned a lot from them. I love the message you are teaching the younger women while time is so crucial. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad that this is helpful. Yes, Bahan says, I love a decisive man. It's the best thing. Oh, I can just turn off my brain because there's a lot going on. All right. So again, this woman was in her 20s. A man was in the 40s. There's nothing wrong with that. One of my students in the finishing school, 25. Her husband's 40, married and got a baby on the way, happier than ever. So it's up to you, ladies. All right. So we talked about that. You're not going to match his level his way. Kevin said in this episode, you match his level with femininity. So ask yourselves, ladies, if you want a high value man, do you have high level femininity? If you want a masculine man, are you just as feminine as he is masculine? Or is that you? Do you always have to have the last word? Do you always have to take little digs at him, embarrass him in public? Do you have to compete with him? I know I am, but what are you? Do you have to make fun of him? Do you have to kind of chop him off at the knees when you're with your girlfriends? So you matching him in every way that he's masculine, you need to be just as strong in a feminine way. All right. So Kevin asked her, do you make him look better? And I'm not just talking about when you're on his arm, ladies. Yes, we can put on the little black dress and go to the company Christmas party. That's fine. But when he shows up in a space, Kevin talked about that. These type of men need a woman that can work the room. Do you get along with the other wives? Do you fit in? Do you look to bring people together? Are you pleasant? Or when you come around, is it like, oh boy, another loose cannon? What's going to happen here? This is important, ladies, because men are their craft, and it's really important the company that they keep and the circle that they run in. You need to be able to fit into that. And it's not the men in that circle, it's the women that belong to those men. It's really important. So, I look at women sometimes when I'm out and about, and I'll never say it, but in my head, I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, she could never be a part of my circle. She could never be a part of my family. So ask yourself, ladies. I know sometimes as women, we want to compete with each other, but is that getting you the outcome that you want? Thank you, Swag D, for the compliment. You are too kind. He says, you look great, Maggie. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so let us continue on. So do you make him look better? Do you get along with the other women? Kevin asked that in this episode. Do you impress the women of his men? I thought that was so powerful. So ladies, again, in this modern world where we think everybody's equal, we're just, persons interchangeable. No, you'll notice this. When you go to gatherings or if you host a party or whatever, the holidays are coming up, it's not uncommon for the men to circle up and kind of do their thing. And then, towards the end of the night, the women will circle up and we'll do our thing, whether it's in the kitchen or whether we're cleaning up or whether we're watching the kids or whatever it is, barbecue, family reunion or whatnot. Those women, especially the women that are his peers' wives, are going to be sizing you up. So sometimes I see women make the mistake. They come in this space and they put on the tightest dress they can and they have everything showing because you want the men to have their tongues wagging and like, oh my gosh, get a load of that. But the problem is when you do stuff like that, the women that those men are going home with are going to say, we don't want her around. And that's just how it is, ladies. So you want to be able to impress the older women, the established women, the women that he already has a relationship with. They have accepted him into that space if you want a high value man. So can you make pleasant conversation? Are you inclusive or are you divisive? Do you have anything to offer as far as, I don't know, life experience or anything that is that fits in with how they move? I'm not saying that you need to copy them, but I am saying that you need to look like you belong. If you look like you stick out like a sore thumb, they're going to leave you outside. And a man is not going to impact his career or his upward projection because you just can't get right. We go to the holiday gathering and they have an open bar and 2 and 3 drinks in, you're on the dance floor doing God knows what, because you've never been anywhere and everybody's looking like, where did he get her from? All right. Erin Laura says, you're right. A lot of women think they deserve a high value man because she's equally masculine and a boss babe, but her equality to him is in her femininity. Yes. And here's the cheat code, ladies. Femininity never ages. So you can be 50 like me, or you can be 25, or you can be 70. You can still be a feminine woman. These men want wives, not husbands. Such a good point. We got James here, says men and women are not meant to be created equal, and that's a good thing. Absolutely. I can't imagine being with somebody like me. I cannot imagine. Nothing would get done. It would just be a mess. I need structure. I'll speak for myself. All right. I know I need the structure. Okay. So let us continue on. So, do you impress the women that are the women of the men that he's around? And he said, this man is going out for a reason. So he's talking to this 25-year-old who's in a relationship with a 40-year-old. And he said, that man is going out for a reason. So, ladies, you have to understand, especially if you want a high value man, which a lot of women think they want one and they think they're ready, everything that he does is with intention. Even social events are with intention. Men like this do not waste time because they don't have time to waste. Now, of course, sometimes I'll tell you all about me when I'm cooking for Mr. President and he's watching the game or whatever. He's got his laptop. You know, we go on vacation, he's checking the markets. Like, he's always working. They are always working. So again, if you think a high value man is just going to look into your googly eyes and tell you you're beautiful all day and all night while you sit there and do nothing, it's going nowhere fast. So when a high value man or an ambitious man goes out, he's trying to make connections, he's trying to network, he's trying to get clients, he's trying to do all of these things. Are you useful? Are you able to listen to conversation and pick up different tidbits that you can bring back to him? Are you able to find out, oh, you know, such and such 30th anniversary is coming up. Would you like for me to send them flowers on behalf of us? Whatever. Are you useful in a way that can kind of grease the elbows to make his job a little bit easier, right? Aaron Laura's here for the googly eyes. I know, y'all know what I mean. See, Irving says a lot of women wouldn't want to date themselves as far as mindset and behavior. It's true, but that's a whole different topic. I know. I'm telling y'all. Another Maggie, ugh, it'd be a lot of dancing, but that's about it, right? Kevin asked her, are you able to work a room? Are you able to soften his rough edges? That's one of the things that men love about us, ladies. And here's an image that I think about that gives me a chuckle. Think about a high value man, a masculine man, you know, any man that you know that you admire and respect, and ask him to plan a 5-year-old's birthday party. You already know. You can get cheese pizza or you can go home. Drink water. There's a garden hose out there. That's it. It's not going to be warm and welcoming and pin the tail on the donkey and, oh, you don't eat pizza? Okay, let me get you some fruit. That woman's touch, that femininity that we have, men love that. They crave that. They need that. That is our superpower. If you think it's a weakness, you are mistaken. So every man is looking for his first lady. Even if he's not high value, if he's up and coming, he wants that woman that's going to represent him well at every stage. Okay? Yes, y'all know what I'm talking about. You all have seen it. You know, can't hold their liquor, dancing ridiculous, show up with something too tight, too short, taking food home. No. So, ladies, if you find yourself suddenly ghosted, or you had a man, a certain caliber of man, give you attention and then that attention went away, ask yourself, did I do something to ruin my chances? Okay. So Kevin said a lot of women can look the part, and that's the problem. Mr. President calls it playing dress up. Ladies, a lot of you, a lot of us, thank you, Dave, on TikTok, a lot of us can, okay, I need to lower my voice. I need to wear pearls. I need to, you know, do all these things that, you know, kind of makes me that Stepford wife and I can just look the part. But men are going to put you to the test. And my etiquette teacher, she said something like, you know, a woman's character is like a tea bag. You never know the quality until she's put in hot water. So the point is, ladies, If it's not genuinely who you are, it's going to show. And here's the thing, men are willing to wait. They will outweight us 10 times out of 10 because it's already taken them as long as it took them to get where they are. So they're not going to be rushed. They're not going to be fooled. They're not going to do any 90-day fiance or, you got to marry me in 3 months or down the year. No. Mr. President told me at that Chick-fil-A on the second date, he did not want a blended family. He said, you need to finish what you start and then we will have our time together. The boys were 2 and 4. So I went to cry in the car and then decide, do I want to wait on this man? And for me, he's a man worth waiting for. Now, when I was younger, of course, I could say, no, I want marriage. I want to take advantage of my youth. And I did. But if I couldn't keep that together, I'm not entitled to repeated do-overs. So especially as we get older, ladies, that list of demands, you really want to reevaluate that. But now the boys are 16 and 18. So he's already said 2027 is my year. So I'm here until I'm not. The Condemned says that's an excellent tea and authenticity analogy. Yeah, absolutely. James says to stimulate a man's imagination and have respect for her man, she has to dress modestly. Absolutely, ladies. Save it for your man. Everything is not for public consumption. I mean, this is low-hanging fruit. If everybody can see it, nobody wants it. All right, let's continue. So Kevin said, we are auditioning for his last name. If you want to be the last one standing, we are going to have to compete. And even when you're in that relationship, even though I have Mr. President and he tells me, babe, you're good. No, I'm like, I'm going to keep working. Heads down, working. Heads down, focus. Is this good? What else can I do? You need anything else? Like, I'm never going to take my foot off the gas. That's my approach. What is yours? All right. So Kevin said we can win with the right attitude. That's important. That's something that doesn't cost you anything. And your attitude never ages as well. And that's a hard point of contention for me. A lot of times, ladies, you don't realize the damage that you're doing to yourself and the way that you show up when you waste time with men that don't have any plans for you. That bitterness, I know we like to toss around the bitter old woman, but she wasn't always bitter. Things happen. So you really do have to move with intention and be very decisive. That's why I say only date men that you admire and respect. Choose from that pool, because there's no guarantee. You all can be great on paper, but maybe it's just not, going to work out. But at least you don't look back and say, God, I knew it and I did it anyway. And God forbid if you have, an illegitimate child from it. I don't know. I can't help. All right. So Kevin said, we don't want to hamstring his professional progress. Again, he's talking about high value men, but I think this applies to any man. Make sure, ladies, what you do, even if you don't know his line of work and all the ins and outs, make sure nothing that you do is a hindrance to where he's trying to go. That applies to your appearance, that applies to your communication, that applies to your behavior and your digital footprint. Like Kevin said, the ABCDs. Make sure if someone were to stumble across you in person or online, you represent your man well. That is important. All right. So Kevin said, is it impossible? No. Hold on, ladies, it's going to hurt. He said, is it improbable? If you are overweight and older. Yes and yes. So let's tell the truth. Men want a woman who keeps herself up. And I'm not, going to sit here and say you need to be a size 2. You all know I struggle with that as well. But I will say this, you want to be mindful of it and pick a struggle. Ladies, you can't be, a little heavier and have a bad attitude and be entitled and have, illegitimate kids. And I mean, the ands have to stop somewhere. So if you are coming to the table with some strikes against you, make sure you overperform in the areas that you can control, because it is going to be harder if you're not fit and if you're older, because men, he said that in this episode, men want a reward for all that hard work. All right. So if you want a high value man, please believe he wants that. He wants it to be worth the years of the blood, sweat, and the tears. All right. So, one of the problems that I see a lot of modern women make, and Kevin said that in this episode, the attention that you get only leads to one thing, the physical part. And you can get that all day, every day, twice a day on Sundays if you want to. And a lot of times women will take that attention like it's going somewhere and it's not going anywhere. So you can ask yourself, if you've gotten caught up in that, look at how those men approached you and realize where that type of attention led. And then that way you should be able to be on the lookout when someone approaches you that same way and say, nah, this isn't going anywhere. I've seen this before. I've had this before. But I would ask myself, why am I getting this type of attention? And even further, what is it about me that makes a man think that I would be open and willing to something that's just temporary? Because not all of us are approached that way. And you got to decide if you want to win the battle or you want to win the war. Do you want to leave the party with all of the numbers and men chasing you down so they can do whatever and be gone in the morning? Or do you want to find that match, somebody who really is trying to do this thing called life together? All right. Tell us here, saying your voice and advice reminds me so much of Oprah. If that's a compliment, thank you. I appreciate that. I've worked a lot on my voice because I was told I shout when I talk. So I had to work on that. All right, ladies, you can too. All right. So again, comparing modern women, American women, to other cultures, Kevin said no other group deifies their women. We've got to stop this. I am not a queen. I am not a princess. Well, technically I am in my African culture. My grandfather was a chief, but you didn't ask me that. But we have to stop thinking that we are on this pedestal and everything we do is great and there's no room for improvement. And if you think about it, other cultures that are thriving, they don't put their women up on a pedestal. We are not built to be worshipped. We are not gods and goddesses. All right. So stop that. It's foolishness. And high value men or masculine men know that when you accomplish something, it comes from hard work. It's not, I just woke up like this. That's not real. All right. Thank you, Di. Thank you so much. Erin Laura says, careful with those Instagram profiles. Family photos along videos of them dancing half nude in front of the mirror is egregious. Don't shake for the public like that. It's true, ladies. So you can go ahead and scrub your social media now, but hopefully it doesn't even make it up there. Make sure it presents the best of you. Now, if all you want is to stick it out and have a selfie, then that's what you asked for. So don't complain when that's what you get. James says humility is a great trait for women to have, especially in this day and time. Absolutely. Humility is a beautiful quality because it's rare. All right. So yes, you can let a man have access to your body, but we've already talked about usually that's not going anywhere if that's all that they want. All right. All men are going to want access to your body. That doesn't make them bad. That just makes them men. But you have to ask yourself, does he only want my body? All right. Kevin said again, when women say I want a high value man, oftentimes they overlook those men in the middle. Right. And if you look at the trajectory of a man, if we look at the bell curve, there's going to be more men in the center. Not everybody is a bum and not everybody is high value. But ladies, every man that is high value was once average. Let that sink in. And so the problem is when women meet high value men and they look at his average woman and you're like, I look better than her. But were you there when she was? Did you sacrifice the way that she did? Did you work with him? Did you wait on him? Did you encourage him? Did you believe in his goals and dreams? Did you help him become that high value man? All right. So if you have access to a man that's in the middle, that's working his craft, that has a plan, a vision, and he can tell you, that is gold, because one thing that is for certain is time. We will all get older. And I just hate to hear women have regret when they look back and say, God, I wasted those years. All right. Erin Laura agrees. Wonderful. So yeah, so Kevin said you can want anything you want. He's not going to begrudge you that. You can want a trust fun billionaire kid, go for it. Now, the likelihood of getting it, those are the only men that are rich and young. But most men that are well to do have built themselves, all right? Started from the bottom, now they're here. And Kevin said high value men don't hang with cornbread. So he was using this nickname for, one of the friends from around the way. But here's the thing, ladies, as a man, if you want a high value man, as a man achieves his goals and becomes more accomplished, his social circle is going to change. And that will mean your social circle will also have to change. So if you have chaotic people in your friend group, chaotic people in your family, you all know that friend or that meddling mother or that person that you love, but they just can't get right, you're going to have to make the decision to distance yourself. Now, if that's something that you're not willing to do, fine, let that man go and find somebody else, but he's not going to let that bring him down. That person that's always in between jobs and always looking for a couch to sleep on. Men know that relationships are risky and they're going to stack the odds in their favor. Like Lucy says, we need to be an asset, and not only us ourselves, but the circles that we run with. So you can audit your friends too. And if your man has told you, I don't like her, or I don't want you going over there. He said it one time. And like Mr. President told me, I'm going to tell you one time in a row and let you figure it out. The key is you don't even want him to have to say it. You want to be observant enough to know if the company that you keep is helping you reach your goals. Tella says, I have a great one. After having a bad man, we've had 11 hard but amazing years. That's the best. I'm telling you, nothing worth having is going to come easy. All right. I love that. Congratulations to you. All right. So again, Kevin was asking, what do you need from a man? Do you even know that, lady? So ask yourself, what do you need from a man? All right. And then he said, what does he get for dealing with you? I think we're really good at saying, okay, I want this and I want that. But are you able to run off the same list of, and in exchange for that, I'm going to do this and this and this and this for you. And I'm not going to do this and this and this. So you don't have to worry about that. It's important. This is an exchange. Everything is negotiated. All right. And you have to be able to have these conversations. This is another mistake that I see modern women make. It's not just going to be feelings based and we just vibe. What is a vibe? Maybe I'm old, but no. Yes, we enjoy each other's company. I love being with Mr. President. He is my best friend. He is my entertainment. But that's not going to keep a relationship over those hard years. I know what it's like. Nobody wants to just have a fair weather friend. When the money is up and the bonuses are up and things are going well, you're there for the party. But what happens when we need to cut back? What happens when we need to move to another state for an opportunity? What happens when he needs to travel for work to go get clients or whatever? Are you going to be able to keep it together, or are you going to pout because this is not how you wanted it? All right. So what does he get for dealing with you? You got to be able to answer that. Ask yourself. All right. So the next woman that called in, she was a widow, but she was 45 with two small children under 10. I'm like 9 and 7. I don't remember. And she wants a high value man. And Kevin really gave her the business. She was struggling to answer his simple questions. And he said, talking to her, it didn't really seem like she was serious. I think he was trying not to call her delusional, but she was just kind of like, I'm like a car that's been kept in the garage and, I'm worth it and all of this stuff. Ladies, we got to look at the facts. All right. We have to look at the men that we want have a lot of options. And Kevin asked her, why would a man who can have anything that he wants take a 45-year-old woman with 2 children? Men want their own kids. Most people want their own kids. Let's say the quiet part out loud. It's incredulous to me, but so many women who have children want a man who doesn't have children because they don't want the baby mama drama. Make that make sense. But it's human nature to want to create your own family. So if you didn't create your own intact family, it's not fair for you to bring your kids in tow and expect that man to cover them and spend money on them and do all that. If you have a man that's willing to, that's wonderful. But Kevin always used to ask this, and I've been thinking about this. What value are your children to another man? And this is a hard one, ladies, because I'm a mom too. But I think if you do have children, my man told me, finish what you start. But I think if you do have children, can he look at them and speak of them in a way that makes him proud, even though they're not his own? Mr. President has been very, very proud of Marcus. And you all know my ex-husband's military family. And, we're all very proud of Marcus. But Mr. President is like, he is so far ahead from most kids his age. And he gets a smile when he's talking about, our son. So, ladies, 9.9 times out of 10, our children are not an asset to another man. So when you create a family, do the best that you can to keep it together, because it's going to be really hard. But make sure that your children are honorable and help you get what you want and aren't a barrier to what you want. All right. Daryl says no value at all. There you go. The men are saying it. Yeah. It's just the truth. No, it's great to hear. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So Kevin was asking this 45-year-old woman what value she brings, and she was kind of tap dancing around the answer. And she was like, I'm fun, I'm good company, I'm whatever she said. And he asked her, he said, does that show up in your daily life? And it stopped her in her tracks. And she was like, oh, no, not really. So ladies, ask yourself, it may hurt, but look at how you show up. If you tell people, oh yeah, I am really generous and caring and I'm patient, but everywhere we look, it's all about you. Can't nobody tell you anything. You got to have it your way, Burger King. So whatever you're trying to sell to the man that you want, they're going to audit, and they're going to check, and they're going to ask around, and they're going to wait for you to show who you really are consistently. That goes back to that social media too. So, I think really thinking about how you show up and who you want to be, you are not going to be able to fool them and code switch. If you think you're playing games, especially with a high value man, he'll play along, but he's already figured out how this is going to end. And when he's done, and he knew all along. All right. Daryl says you're absolutely right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate when the men concur, because I never believe I have the place to speak for a man. Like I said, when I had that session with Kevin, and he was so gracious one-on-one. I really wanted to create a sanctuary for the older women to teach the younger women. But the older women teach younger women from our experience with men. All right. So I have to have lived it myself to be able to share it with you, what I've done right as well as what I've done wrong. All right. So make sure you show up consistently, whatever you're trying to sell. So this is going to hurt, but Kevin told her your product is used and more expensive. All right. So I think she was trying to say she was some type of Ferrari, or excuse me, pardon me. But the truth is, ladies, this is why I say it's wonderful to give your husband your youth, because they know we're going to age and they will appreciate that classic car. But a classic car doesn't have a whole bunch of miles on it. And that's the problem when you've been out there doing whatever you want to do with nobody who took you seriously. You've given your best years, and now you're here at this point with a used vehicle. And the more expensive means you still expect the man that you meet today to care for you like you've been there for 20 and 30 years. And that is impossible. I think Kevin told her later on, for us older women, having a partner, having a life partner, I know you all don't like that 50-50, but if you didn't lock it down when you were young, it's better than nothing. It's absolutely better than nothing. And I'm only in my position, and I've shared this with you all. I wanted Mr. President when we were young, but he said he wanted to go live his life and be frat boy supreme, his words. So I was ready. He wasn't. Post divorce, life brought us back together. And I asked him if the tables were turned and he wanted me and I wanted to go out there in hot girl summer, would he be with me today? And he told me no. So, ladies, it's really important. The decisions that we make, they just have consequences. So, it's going to be a lot harder to ask for. I want you to sit me down and pay the bills and make sure I can travel and take care of all these things. And I'll just tell you about what it was like when I was with these other guys. Oh, yeah, I used to be the cat's meow. It's not going to work. Thank you so much, Daryl. He says no. Okay, so this lady was trying to say, even at her big age, that she was a classic car. And it made me think of Jackie O or like a Coretta Scott King. Ladies, it's very rare that an older woman gets to get the cream of the crop. But the reason she can get the cream of the crop is because she was a younger version of that same dignified older woman. And for whatever reason, maybe she's widowed or maybe the marriage ended, men are going to look at our track record and how we have carried ourselves and how we have behaved with other men and decide if we are worthy of coming underneath their covering and having that reward. So, I'm not trying to shame anybody, but if you know you don't have that pedigree, be honest with yourself and say, look, I didn't prioritize it. I wasted a lot of years, but look, this is what I'm willing to do. Can we grow old together? Just be honest, ladies. You're going to have that conversation. If you sit around waiting for somebody to tap you on the head like it's going to be magic, you're just going to be waiting around forever. All right. So he said, classic cars don't have all these road miles. All right. She starts laughing. And he said that was a single woman tell. I never understand it when women are in the chat sometimes and they're like, oh, LOL, or they make a comment like that. I don't think any of this is funny. This is serious. This is life. This is who's going to be there when you close your eyes for the last time. Who's going to be with you when your parents age or your children get shipped off or, whatever. Who's going to do this thing called life with you? It is not a joke. Maybe y'all think it's funny. Maybe you think you're just going to wake up and, open up a fortune cookie and, it's going to be automagic. It's not. Real relationships take real work. So you have to be intentional. And so Kevin told her, the reality of your life is going to tell you what you qualify for. All right. So ladies, just be honest. Don't try to pretty it up. Don't try to clean it up. Don't try to say, oh, no, I just been a good girl all these 30, 40, 50 years. And, I'm just unlucky in love. Come on. Every woman that I've talked to that is single today had an opportunity in the past. And either she thought she was better than him or didn't take him seriously. And now she's scrambling, trying to make it work. And I don't take any pleasure in saying that. And I'm seeing that in even my 30-something-year-old students. They're having to start over because the men that were interested in them, they were like, oh, I don't want to be rushed. Oh, I'll take my time. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Plenty of fish, but not plenty of husbands. All right. So Kevin was talking about, our hot girl summers, or those of y'all who have hot girl summers, especially for my young ladies. Like I said, I married my college boyfriend. I'm back with somebody I grew up with. But those years when you're in college or those first few jobs in your early 20s right out of college, Kevin said it, that's when you're going to be in the proximity of the most eligible bachelors you will ever have. Ask any woman in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and plus. For us, once we get older, life becomes very routine. You go to work, you come home, you run into the same people, maybe the coffee shop, maybe the grocery store. But meeting those ambitious young men that are going to be high value one day, because you're not going to get him when he's already there, that is the time that you need to use your youth and beauty, your currency, to lock it down when you have that opportunity. Do not squander those years. Do not listen to anyone who says, what's the rush? You have time to waste. I promise you, 30 will be here before you know it. I was married at 25, and I remember thinking I just beat the buzzer because I wanted to be closer to 20 than I was to 30. All right, now that's just me. You can do whatever you want to. But Mr. President says it this way: if you meet the man of your dreams, it's 2 years before you get married because we want a year to date and we want a year to plan the wedding. If everything goes perfect and you meet him tomorrow, whose life goes perfect? All right. So you need to go ahead and add 2 to 3 years on top of where you are today for the caliber of man that you want, if he's ready and you are. All right. There's no guarantees. No guarantees. All right. So Kevin had a super chat break, and what he was encouraging the women to do in that stream, he said, you have to pay your way. Now, here's the thing, ladies, this is not about money, but you are going to have to invest. If you didn't use the currency that you had that was God given, youth and beauty, then you're going to have to pay now, and it's going to cost you more. You're going to have to double down in the femininity and being agreeable. Like I say, have a heart of service, all of that. Kevin said, can you smile and compliment? Can you see a man and compliment him? Wow, that was really impressive. Or that's a great color on you. Or I love that suit. Or nice shoes. Or thank you. That's really smart. Can you open up your mouth and be genuinely kind? Are you one of those, I'm nice when you get to know me? I know women like that. And they are still single to this day. Like I say, nobody is going to swim over broken glass and scale the tower wall to bring you a lemonade for your screw face. All right. Nobody wants the resting mad face. So get over yourselves. You have to be able to make eye contact and smile. That's what I did. Hi, I'm Maggie. And the rest is history. James says, this is the most beautiful advice a mature woman can give younger women. Oh, thank you so much. You are too kind. C. Irving says, yeah, I agree. If you're behind, you're going to need to invest in that lost time. It's true. Yeah. Anything else is being lazy. So ladies, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but all of us, like I told you, when I reconnected with Mr. President, I had to expedite. I had to say, okay, you know what? It is not my way or the highway. Sometimes it's going to be a no. Sometimes it's going to be a not yet. Sometimes it's going to be a not this, but that. I have to be ready right now. That's what Mr. President said. I'm ready right now, so I need you to be ready right now. So I had to hightail it into gear and check the attitude and check the competition and check all of that. And, I'm still here over a decade later, but you are going to have to focus on it the way we focus on everything else that we want. That big job, that promotion, the way you do those makeup tutorials and hair tutorials and know the lyrics to all the songs and all the dance moves. Like Mr. President will say, you do what you want to do. So that means, ladies, they watch what we put effort into. And if we get lazy and confused when it comes to being a good woman to a good man, that's not going to last. And you're just going to find yourself alone. All right. So do you know how to flirt? Do you know how to be feminine? Do you allow yourself to be feminine? That's one of the things my man said. He told me, he said, Maggie, tell the ladies in the finishing school, you're already feminine. You just have to stop fighting it. And this circles back to what I said earlier about those breadwinner jobs, those big jobs and those big degrees. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. I have a STEM degree. I have an MBA, but I never lead with that. You'll hear me say all the time, I'm just a mom on the internet. Because for me, that is my highest calling. The way I look at it is, if I have all of these professional accomplishments and take all these trips and all these accolades and, all, yet I fail my children, yet I'm not a good woman, not a good wife, to me, unacceptable. So I always lead with wife and mother, family first. That's the priority for me. So you got to ask yourself, what is the priority? So it starts, ladies, with a woman and a man, a husband and a wife, a family. That's how it starts. So you got to let them know, I don't mind a conversation or a coffee date or a walk in the park. Again, first date I think was at Blimpie's. Second date was at Chick-fil-A. And now he's Mr. President. All right. So um, allow yourself to be a woman, um, do less and be more. Your soft skills, your femininity, it's so endearing to men. Believe me. All right. Oh, thank you so much for being here. The Condemned says, I had a woman shoot her shot by asking me how I like my waffles in the morning. He said, oh, oh, she almost had me. I'm going to tell you, we don't live together. When Mr. President says he's coming over, I don't ask if he's hungry. I ask, what would you like tonight? He has 5 meals that we rotate through. And I'm gonna tell y'all one of the things that I had to learn. Y'all know I love to cook and try new things. I'm always like, "Ooh, can we do this recipe? Can I try this?" And he was like, "No, stay consistent." He's like, "Everything else is chaos. I need this to be consistent." I was like, "Whoa, okay, zip it." I make the same five things on repeat, and he loves it. All right. Cowboy dances is making you cry. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Not everything can be fixed. So I don't know how to answer that, but I will definitely pray for your heart to heal in any way that it can. All right. So, ladies, don't be afraid to flirt. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, there's no guarantees. If 1 out of 2 women are going to be single for life, 2030 is 4 years away, ladies. All of you listening to this are going to be here in 2030. Do you want to be one of the taken ones or do you want to be one of the single ones? And what are you doing right now to have that outcome? That is what I want young women to do. You need to be making decisions right now that are going to give you the life that you want when you're my age and beyond. All right. So, do you know how to flirt? How do you feel about women who draw attention from men? This was a question that Kevin asked in the chat. Ladies, I know by nature we can be catty and competitive, but I like to learn from other women. And if you're bold, you can say, you know what, you seem to be really good at that. Can I pick your brain? Or you can just observe. But thinking, you know, I'm a boss, I'm this, I woke up like this, you will stay stuck and you will probably stay single. So watch the women. He said in that example, a woman goes to a bar and leaves with her dinner paid or something like that. I'm not one of those women. Like I said, I'm not a knockout, but I do leave people better than they found me. All right. So that's my superpower. That's something that you can work on. He said, we always need to be ready right now. You need to have, my stylist calls it a capsule wardrobe. All right. Mr. President told me, I don't wear anything with holes and tears. You don't need to wear anything with holes and tears. So all that comfortable stuff, the bonnets, all that stuff going out, thinking nobody's going to see you, unacceptable. Even your casual clothes need to be presentable. Ladies, this is low hanging fruit, but the men that we want expect this. And we should be happy to give it to them. You should want to represent yourself well anyway. He said you need to be ready. If he's up at 6 a.m., you need to be ready. Here's the thing. I love watching these videos. I think there's some TikToks where women are up making lunches for their blue collar husbands. And you all know when I cook for Mr. President, I always send him home with 1, 2, 3 days worth of food. But I'll never forget this woman that I was coaching. A man invited her over and, I asked how everything went. And she said, he got up and made breakfast the next morning. And I was like, he did what? And I said, where were you? What were you doing? And she was like, oh, I was just sleeping in. I guess he just wanted to. I would probably leap over the furniture to knock the spatula out of your hand. The point is, do you expect to be a pampered princess or do you expect to earn what you have? So, unfortunately for her, she's still single and that didn't go anywhere. So, those are the opportunities, those are the tests that you have. And if, ladies, your mindset isn't like, okay, he is giving me an opportunity to demonstrate what I'm going to do. Can I align to his schedule? Because a high value man is not going to change for you. And she regrets it to this day. All right. So make sure you're ready when he's ready. All right, so he continued on with this 45-year-old woman. I think her profile picture was 10 years old, and he asked her, why don't you use a recent picture? And again, ladies, it's not about the picture, but underneath that, that means that without saying it, you're acknowledging, I don't like how I look right now. I looked better back then. All of us probably looked better when we were young. But men don't expect us to be forever young. They do expect us to age. But as we grow in years, so should our wisdom and femininity and experience as well too. So when you just think, okay, I need to do all these filters and do all these lashes and do all this foolishness and take a picture that is a frozen snapshot in time. Well, when he meets you, what does he get? Is there anything of substance? All right. So Noy says, I'm confused. I thought this was about being a wife. So is it okay to have a long-term boyfriend? If that's what you all decide, absolutely. Now, this is called the Wives Club because we were current wives, former wives, and future wives. Because if you listen to Kevin Samuels, he said, you have to be a wife before you're married. Being a wife is a mindset. And like my man says, Mr. President says, you got to get to girlfriend. You got to get to wife. You don't go from zero to getting the ring. All right. So all of this applies. Erin Laura says, I've never been the entitled feminist type, but I've definitely softened a bit since knowing you. Shout out to you, Maggie. Oh, thank you, sweetheart. All right. So he talked about the self-fulfilling prophecy. And ladies, ask yourself what you want and are you really ready for it? And when it presents itself, are you ready to step into that role? Because a lot of times women sabotage their choices, their options, because they don't really think that this could happen for me. And so they do the foolish thing or they have that, outburst or that bad behavior or, start talking to other men or runaway bride or whatever because it was getting too close to success. So, look, it's not for everybody. Like Kevin said, it's rare air, but we can all have our own high value man, right? So he talked some more about the children that she brought to the table. And he said, can that man discipline the children like his own? And she got quiet. You already know the answer to that. So he said, as older women, finding a life partner, finding somebody to grow old with, I think is a wonderful option if you didn't lock down marriage in your youth. Is it impossible? No. But your likelihood of success is going to be a lot better when you have adjusted your expectations, all right? We come together for practical reasons to help each other, to be a helpmate, to be a support system to each other, and maintain that life. Most women want a man to elevate them, which is not wrong. But ladies, again, you're going to have a better chance of getting that outcome when you are young. When we're older, we're on their timeline. It's their rules. Ask me how I know, all right? But still, I think having a man is a wonderful blessing. If that's what you want, I would implore you to act accordingly, all right? High value men are going to create themselves. They're looking for a reward for all of that hard work. Are you that reward? Because Kevin said this as we close. The end consumer of a woman is a man. Meaning, in whatever scripture you believe, the man came first and the woman was there to help him, to be of service to him. If you want to do your own thing, just go do your own thing. None of this applies. But it all starts with these couples that build families and that builds our community and our society. All right. So ask yourself, are you a good person? Are you a good woman? Because I'll close with this. Mr. President said, if no man has wanted to keep you around, that doesn't make you a good woman. You may be a good person, but a good man wants to keep a good woman. All right. Noise says true. All truth. All right, everybody. Well, thank you all so much. So the Wives Club is usually with you all once a month. You can turn on your notifications, but I'm Maggie, the substitute teacher. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I make food and femininity content. Tomorrow, we're going to do an early Thanksgiving for the family because Marcus is shipping off for a year as a Marine. So I'll be doing some, food reviews. I picked up the catering today. And then next week is the Maggie meetup cruise. So if you all like my travel content, I'll be updating every day. But thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Clarence on Instagram. I appreciate the comment. Let me say thank you so much to Senator for the $10, Raymond for the $10, Irving for the €5, and Suave D for the $10. You all are so kind. So I will see you all next time, and we'll get this clipped up for you. All right. The video is linked in the description. It was about an hour and a half if you want to watch it without my commentary. All right, everybody. I'm going to let you all have your evening. Thank you so much for being here. Good night.